All right, guys, so welcome to another episode of the Imperfectly Perfect Podcast. And today, like always, and I always say, I've got another incredible guest on. Somebody that has been an inspiration for some time now, a huge mental health advocate. But as I always often do, I speak a little bit about what the person has done and then introduce, and we go into the questions. So today, I'm going to be speaking about this amazing lady. She was born and raised in Los Angeles, lived in New York City for 9 years, where she taught Black history through art and performed in various community and off-Broadway theater after graduating from Eugene Lang of New School University. She's an artist, a writer, and a producer. She has done so many incredible, successful films, TV series, including Condor, the original, amongst so many more. And you can currently see her in the It ABC series, A Million Little Things. And I suppose, well, she is a huge advocate towards mental health, being a great supporter of the campaign. And like I say, I suppose it's where we first met. I would like to welcome Christina Moses.
Hi.
How you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, I suppose like we can take it back to the beginning. You've had an incredible career. Yeah, and I remember speaking, I've been fortunate, as I always say, to have shared the stage, so to speak, on podcasts now with you twice. And I know that your career kind of stemmed at an early age, seeing your dad, who was an actor, and your mum, and he used to put plays, and you used to reenact them, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. So my dad used to teach acting in Long Beach way back in the day. That's actually how my parents met. And he would write plays, and I guess they would perform them. I don't quite remember, but I remember seeing rehearsals. So it could have been class, it could have been, but I knew he was a writer. He is a writer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would watch the rehearsal and then I would go home and mimic them when I was like 3 years old. With my little, like, you know, those toy brooms that kids have with like the bubble balls inside. I don't know, like plastic, Fisher Price, something or other. And it would be like my microphone, and I would, yeah.
What I liked about you when I met you and everything, you're so humble, but I always ask this question to everyone, because attributing to social media and attributing to your success and seeing you, everyone would expect you to be some kind of extrovert and confident. That wasn't always the case with you, was it?
No, it definitely was not. I don't think I'll ever be a full-on extrovert, but I mean, yeah, I was so shy as a kid. Like, for example, I would come home and I would, you know, pretend to do my dad's plays and mimic the actors. And then the minute someone was watching me, I would stop. Yeah, so my dad thought I had an interest in it, and I probably did, but he, you know, took me all around Hollywood, and I was auditioning, and I was miserable. I was so shy. He put me in his acting classes, and I just did not, as long as other people were around, I was like, no, this isn't gonna work. But eventually I am an artist, so I was painting and writing. That was like my main form of expression. And eventually, I was high school. I just found myself doing theater. I was asked to be involved in some productions, and I fell in love with it, but it was on my terms. And yeah, but it was just another form of expression. It wasn't anything I was particularly taking seriously as a profession. So I just kept doing it through college. And then when I moved to New York, because I actually first started going to school at UC Santa Cruz. And I was doing theater there, and I was doing outreach theater, where our Rainbow Theater, our theater company, just silenced my buzzer here. And we would drive down to Los Angeles to inner city schools, high schools, and perform theater to get kids interested in college and theater and the arts, and just knowing there is an avenue for them. And that was amazing. And then, but when I went to New York, I stopped. I just finished my undergrad, and I was heavily into academics. So I started teaching, and I thought that was the avenue I wanted to take. And then I missed theater, and then went back into theater. And after many years, finally, but yeah, confidence was a main thing. And to be honest, I think that's why I always wanted to be an actress. and a performer. But I couldn't admit it to myself because I didn't have the confidence.
Wow. I always say, sometimes in life when you hear people and say, oh, so-and-so was an actor or a model or something, oh, that's pretty easy. Bloody hell. Like, I have done photography for a while, seen modeling, even those little movements that they do.
Oh my God.
That takes years of training, because I'm like, I don't look like that if I do that.
No, it's a thing. Modeling is a whole thing. Like taking photos, being still and still conveying like a message, a story, an image, an emotion. I can't, that is so hard to do. And then there's like a way of so there's like modeling, and then there's just taking your photos, let's say on a red carpet or something, just so you kind of look like, that's a skill in and of itself. I mean, there's literally like ways of holding yourself that I'm kind of learning, I think. I don't know. But yeah, no, modeling, that's a whole skill set that I actually don't particularly have.
Then it goes further from there. Acting. Like I don't know whether because I'm an empath and I really connect with people on a whole other level. Like, and I'm so grateful everyone who's come on the campaign has really just opened up to me and shared. But what I notice when I watch something, an actor, it's something in their eyes that I go, they've been through this in real life. And it's a connection, and you go, wow, which leads me on to the next, you're acting and all the cast of A Million Little Things, which is where I suppose we connected through a good friend of mine, AJ Rochester, who'd seen an Emmy speech of you talking about mental health. And I started watching the show, reached out, didn't ever think that you'd see the message first of all. But so anyone who's listening, if you haven't seen the ABC hit show, I mean, here in Australia, we can't get ABC, so we have to go on YouTube and keep on doing some of this. Yeah. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I have to keep going on and like trying to download and get them from the US. It's,
oh, wow.
It's an amazing thing. So the gist of it is basically a group of friends from Boston who, it's like a serendipitous moment in an elevator, and then you all connect through commonality and stories. And that's what I like, because it really resonates with the campaign. Everyone's got a story, and it all comes to fruition. I'll ask you, you can tell everybody, you're in the show.
Well, yeah, it's a group of friends, and the core guys actually, yes, met because they got stuck in an elevator and realized that they had a lot in common. And because if you look at them, they are all from different walks of life, and their circumstances probably never, like in their daily life, wouldn't have brought them together. But being stuck in the elevator, they got to talk, and realized they actually genuinely liked each other. And so it just ended, like it started off, they would just go to the Bruins game. And then from there, they actually became friends, and their lives started to intermingle and partners and whatnot. And so, it was about like a 7 to 10 year friendship with these guys and our families. And the one that had it all together, the one that actually kind of brought them together in the elevator, not made them go into the elevator, but the one who really initiated more of the conversation in the elevator, that made them feel safe as they were trapped. John, he was extremely successful. Just everyone loved him. He had the beautiful wife and children, the big house, all of this stuff. Just seemed like always there to help people, really, The one who just seemed like he had it all together. He ends up taking his life by suicide. And it shocks everyone. I mean, no one saw this coming at all. And so it's a group of friends navigating their own personal lives and who they are together as friends, as a family, actually. Because not because of that, but after that. And they all look pretty hard at who they are and what's working and what's not working in their lives. And it's just that, ouch, sorry, my finger. But it's just that balance of, the human thing, like our trying to achieve our goals and what gets in the way of that, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and like I said to you before, like it's so well written.
Mm.
Two standouts for me is, and it got me really bad. And my wife's always a mess when she watches stuff like this. Like I said, two shows in the US. There's a million little things in Grey's Anatomy, and you guys need to win all the awards because the sheer amount of emotion that goes into it. And as I say, amazing writing because everything's so prolonged and you feel it and you go through the story. But what the two stand out for me was there was one with Rome and PJ on the roof. I was like, oh, phew. And it was, oh God. And yeah, that was just incredible. And then the other one was actually yourself in Rome with the note.
Mm.
You said
Mm-hmm.
those words to him at the end, like
Mm-hmm.
something about your life is, you are not my whole life, you are my life or something.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just, and just that bit, it's kind of like how my head works as a creative as well is like the camera just pans on you and just holds on that emotion. And I'm like, oh, next scene, come on, come on. I'm not crying, but
Like too much.
then when Rome shows his emotion in the scene, I'm like, because we don't often, and we need to see more men crying. I think that's
Yes.
the thing. And he just opened up, and you're like, holy, yeah, you know. But
Yes.
it's really written, and I actually just writ some things because there was that main thing of the whole show is friendship is being able to have the hard conversations and be willing to listen. It's a million little things. It just resonates so much with what the show's about and the campaign. It's storytelling, but it's having those hard conversations and it's showing, I suppose, the visuals that are the hard times, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's yeah. There's there was a question I was going to ask you because it was kind of related to that. Do you think, like, within your background of obviously acting and teaching through the arts and all the people that obviously have seen you do your work, do you think that the way that people can connect and resonate really well is going this way by storytelling and through visuals, photography, music, film?
I do. I really do. I think that storytelling is the oldest form of communication. You know, before we were writing, we were passing on stories through oral tradition. And it is a way of understanding who we are. It's a way of reflecting a culture, creating myth. Myth is always rooted in truth to some extent, but we need it as a way to kind of call us into being or to make sense of something in our lives, to make sense of society and culture, or to kind of keep culture going in a particular way. And yes, I think that storytelling is so powerful, whether it's through theater or film, television, music, poetry, photography, painting, no matter, because it just kind of speaks to a part of us that I think would be challenging, is sometimes challenging to confront head on. So we can kind of place it just outside of ourselves, but with just enough reflection so that we see ourselves there, or that it gives us reprieve from something, like comedy. But comedy is rooted in the deepest tragedy. That's why it's so funny, and that's why we relate to it, because we have to laugh at our life circumstances. And the power of story is so important because it is crucial to see that ourselves reflected in every single capacity, because that's how you know that there is a place for you in the world.
Yeah.
It's really, it gives us agency to then live our lives and to create the lives that we want.
It does, and I think when you're open to all this and realize this a lot more, I think, and I'll just take it one more time just towards the show, because it is just embroiled in this whole mental health capacity. But a scene with I think it is actually, and I hope there is a new season, by the way, because the ending. But it's where the whole thing of people passing by. Johnny's in the bar and he's about to take a drink, and the old man bumps into him. And he got on the phone and he was like, that guy just saved my life.
Eddie, yeah.
Storytelling and those little serendipitous moments, I think that if we can become more mindful of, we can open the conversation a lot more. But I'll ask you a question that I tend to ask a lot of people when it comes to your work, when it comes to yourself and your mental well-being, or even attributing to the show. Has there been a single standout moment for you where you know that you have touched someone else's life by either your words or your actions, or through the A Million Little Things? There's a standout.
Yeah, my God, there's so many. Like, we were all immediately drawn to the script, and felt very privileged and very lucky and fortunate to be able to tell the story, and then to also just connect so readily with each other as human beings. Like, from our first table read when we were shooting the pilot, it was like the chemistry is real. Like, we authentically love each other. Hold, Charlie. Sorry, my dog wants to go outside. And then, so when we got the pickup and we're shooting the show and we're immersed in it, we're like, wow, like, these are really great issues that we're touching upon, and it's impacting our lives. But we're doing the work, you know what I mean? We just kind of like, we're in Vancouver and we're shooting, and it's again, we're not like really connected. At least I'm not very connected, but I can say that we all kind of were surprised. But we were, when you go to do your work, you're just not connected to how like it necessarily going to be received. You hope it's going to be received well, but especially because Vancouver's is not Hollywood. So there's no like Hollywood industry kind of culture going on there, so just, it felt very removed. And so when it started airing and we got like all of these emails and DMs and notices and posts and about how it's affecting people and touching people and moving people and saving certain people, that was like completely mind-blowing and the greatest gift, because what else are we doing this for, at least in my view. And there was, in particular, like, especially being a Black couple and being able to be that vulnerable on television, and to have a Black man and then a Black man on top of that discuss and go through depression, and then to come together as a unit to try to understand that and hold that and help heal that. Like, that's not seen in American television very often.
Yeah.
So that was something that we got a lot of appreciation for. And then that episode that I did, I think it was episode 14, Someday, when the restaurant opens and Regina finds out about her uncle and the abuse there for her and her mother. I mean, the private messages that flooded my Instagram is forever humbling. And like, there were quite a few people who were like, I've never said anything until I saw your show. I didn't even know that happened to me. I had a feeling, but I wasn't sure, but that happened to me. So now thank you for validating my story and who I am. I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah. When you first saw the script for it, when it was put in front of you, and being obviously a huge mental health advocate yourself, what was your thoughts? Because like you say, in America, it wasn't really the open conversation through thing. The only other thing that I've really seen that's gone into that much depth is kind of the 13 Reasons Why. There was obviously a lot of controversy around it, but with my thoughts on it, when I saw it, I was like, whatever you say about controversy, it's opening that conversation. Yeah. It is hard to watch, but it's the reality of what's happening. Mm-hmm. So what was your thoughts when you obviously saw that script and was like,
just that opener, I was like, holy crap. Yeah. I didn't know, because when I auditioned for it, I had it was during pilot season. It's this particular time where just there's constant new shows and we're all auditioning and there's a mad scramble to for the networks to hire and to cast and to shoot. And so as an actor, if you're fortunate, to have a good pilot season, you're auditioning a lot and you're testing for shows a lot in a very short amount of time. And so I had quite a few that day. And so sometimes you can't always read this script. If it's a callback, obviously you want to, because usually you're in the room with the producers and the writer and the director, so you need to know what's going on. But otherwise you just get the script sides and you go in and you do. So that's what happened. I didn't really know what it was about per se. Like I knew like tragedy in a group of friends. I was like, oh, okay. So I did the scene and then a couple scenes, and then she told me more about it, the casting director, and I was like, oh, great, this is beautiful. Okay. Did it again, went home, and I was like, yeah, I probably won't get that. I got a call later that day saying we want you to meet the director and everybody and the writer. And I was like, oh, great. So then I read the script and I was bawling. And I was like, this is amazing. This is the best script that I read. And I read like, I don't know how many that season, a lot. But pretty much every agent that season was like, this is the one to get. And just a story about friendships, friends being friends and the drama, and then to just around that in and of itself. And then you add on just like a very real layer of, depression, mental health, cancer, things that we're actually dealing with. A lot of people in life, just no one's really talking about it,
People relate, don't they? It's because it's happening in real life. And
oh my God. And it's nothing to be, this stuff shouldn't be taboo. This is stuff we should all learn how to deal with when we're young. Like, oh, we have feelings. How do we relate to them? How do we understand them,
How have you personally, because you've spoken in the past, like when we spoke on other podcasts about you've had anxiety and panic attacks before. Mm-hmm. How have you kind of, within the scope of your success, filtered through the noise of such a busy industry and so many people and self-worth and all that kind of stuff? How have you filtered through all that yourself?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, I think having a very, can you hear my dog?
Yeah. Is he hungry? She hungry?
No, she needs to go outside. Can I just let her outside? Okay. I'll take you with me. No, I can't because I only have one second. I'll be right back. Probably has to go to the bathroom.
All right, guys, so whilst Christina is away, I will say, if you haven't seen the show, hit it up, ABC, A Million Little Things. It is an incredible show. And she's just back now, so there we go.
I have to let her out so she can go do her business. All right, so I think that, it's challenging. It is really challenging because this business is very competitive and there's an element that is very superficial, but of course demands most of it anyway. Of course, there's a lot of shows that don't focus on this, but most demand authenticity and a talent and access to that talent, and that takes a certain level of confidence and being relaxed. And this environment isn't particularly like where you can relax necessarily if you're placing your permission on the outside of you. And so like putting it in the hands of the business or the people around you, so I think having that awareness, for one, and just knowing that that's kind of a part of it. And then the job for me is to tune that out. So it's such a layered question. I think, like, okay, my very specific tools, I guess, would be writing and meditating and exercising, all of those things, kind of like the outer stuff that helps the inner. But it's the mindset of what my goals are, like what I'm here to do, what I want to learn, how I want to grow as a human being. And whether it's with acting or anything, my insecurity is going to show up anywhere. Yeah. Doesn't matter. So that's what I want to work on, is my validation, my worth does not come from on the back. And I can't do that. She's a very spoiled dog. She's wonderful, but she's so headstrong. Very, yeah. Anyway, but like, you know what I mean? That my worth and my value isn't contingent upon the job or anyone else outside of me. And so that is just a practice. And I think that's a lifelong practice. And that's that work that I'm constantly doing inside. And so, because it would get to this point where like every show I did, I would be really excited. And then halfway through, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to fire me. Like totally, like I suck. I can't do this. Imposter syndrome. Like, this is horrible. Why am I doing this? I don't know how to do this, you know? And then last year, no, the first season, was it the first season? Yeah. Halfway through the first season, I was like, stop it. This stops now. You know, because I would get sick. I would get so stressed out. And I'm like, no, this is not worth it. I'm not doing this to myself. So there were podcasts that I would listen to, you know, there was just my own personal meditation work. And I was like, and therapy helped. Therapy really helped. It was the first time I ever did EMDR. Have you heard of that? Therapy?
No, I haven't.
EMDR. Oh my gosh. It's excellent. It started off, I might butcher everything about it, but basically I think it started for veterans, and it is like it's rapid eye movement, something. And it's basically like the binaural pathways in your brain. Okay. So you can follow a hand or a light, or they would put these sensors in, these vibrating sensors, and if you right, left. And as you're reliving a memory, it's going back and forth, and you're basically kind of putting the memory back where it needs to be. Because trauma is now in the past. When we're triggered, when we're having PTSD or we're traumatized, and you know, your brain, your amygdala fires and does all these things, and you're basically put back. So put back into the original trauma. And so if it's hysterical, it's historical. So if you're in the present moment and your reaction to your present circumstances are not appropriate to what's actually happening, chances are there's a trauma there that needs to be so I don't know the science around this or anything like that, but you basically, like, as you're reliving it, you go through it, you have to feel it, and then to a certain degree, and then you kind of talk about what could have happened, what should have happened, and then it somehow just files itself back where it needs to go.
You're saying that, and it's so funny you say that, because the last couple of days I have been in touch with, and they reached out to me, a neuroscientist who was talking about all this, and about how instead of a lot of places, I know in Australia we do it, we kind of concentrate on, okay, so this has happened, how do we fix it? But we need to concentrate on a more precautions, in terms of precautionary measures when it comes to what's happening is those neuron pathways interrupted. So we need to figure out why before it gets to that point. And off the back of that, I'll connect you with this lady. She's called Missy Fowler, and she's a little bit more on the spiritual side, but in terms of what you just said, it's your body reaction. So you'll stand sideways, and she somehow connects with your guides or whoever you want to believe in. And it's kind of seeing your body reaction. She will asking you questions like, you'll start by saying, is my name Glenn? And it's like a body reaction. If you go forward, it's a yes. If you go back, it's a no. Whereas at the beginning, I'm always in my head. I overthink and go, oh, am I supposed to be going forwards or back? But she can tell. And then when you relax, you go into it. But what came through mine, similar to what you was talking about there, was suppressed emotions. And it came down to the age, and my body was reacting at certain periods.
Yeah.
My body dysmorphia came up around the same age, 6 years ago. And then there was something that kept coming up with when I was 4 to 5 years old. So I contacted my parents, and I was like, did I go in? And they was like, no, he was a happy kid. But Missy was like, a trauma to a kid could be anything such as going up a year in school. And you've overbuilt it so much, and then you've suppressed it that it can come out years later.
Yeah.
So we worked through that. So similar kind of thing, maybe just on a different level, but unless you work, it's kind of, you're going to carry that forward, and it can manifest into clinical depression or
Yeah.
It's those precautionary measures, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. So that was the work I was doing in Vancouver while I was filming, because I was determined to not be my own enemy anymore, in relationship to anything, but especially with something that I love to do. So yeah, and also I think what else helps, especially in the industry, but in general, is just to lighten up. Like, try not to be too hard, because things are always changing.
Right, on the show, you shoot a lot on your Insta stories of behind the scenes, and it looks like you've got a genuine friendship. And Rome, especially, is always taking I'll say Michael. Yeah, if you've got a good thing. But what I will do, as I always do, I end these podcasts with a quick, surefire questions, just about things that we might not know about you. So, pretty quick, what is your favorite music?
Oh my gosh, genre?
Yep.
Oh my, this is blues, hip hop, soul, funk. Not so much funk. Yeah, some funk. Jazz. Yeah, I can't narrow it down. I love music so much. I love country. I love just good music, if that makes sense.
I'll tell you something. Australia misses out on jazz music. When I come to LA each year, my friends got me into jazz, and they take you to the blues clubs, and I'm like, Australia missing out. Anyway, what is your, or are your, should I say, proper English there, pre-game rituals? So something that you do before you go on set and you talk yourself up.
Yeah. Okay. So I breathe. I do. I just sit there because usually I'm not breathing. Well, kind of, but no, I really, yeah, it depends on what it is. Like usually I'll just sit there in my chair and I breathe. Because that puts me in my body. I do some movement practices. I have this little video that I made that is kind of based on Michael Gervais's Compete to Create, which we can talk about that later. But basically, it's just kind of knowing what your vision is, knowing what your purpose is, and it locks you in. Yeah. And so that no matter what happens around me, I can just kind of center and focus back into my vision, back into my purpose, and problem solve that way. Give myself just the things I say, give myself permission to be myself in front of people, and just talk to myself in that way. Yeah, sometimes, and then listening to music helps a lot too.
See, maybe that book that you just mentioned today, you can give me some pre-game rituals, because as I say, with this campaign, I've been lucky enough to be asked to go on a network. Each time I go on, my pre-game rituals are trying to say affirmations. You'll be good, Glenn. You'll be confident. You'll be this. That shit goes out the window when I'm on it.
It sure does.
She's like, why do you still look so nervous? It's been 4 or 5 times. I'm like, I don't know.
It's
acting.
It's the thing.
Yeah.
It's nervous. I'm nervous too every time. But we should talk about that, Compete to Create, because he also talks about just how to, it's about training your nervous system and knowing that you can actually do difficult things, and knowing where your body falls on what level of nervous, and just kind of how to work with your edge so that it kind of expands each time.
Well, it's funny because each time I watch, and my wife's like, "Oh, you look so pale," and I'm like, "Well, I'm already bloody white enough. If I go,"
she's like, "Yeah, you look worse."
The only one I was really comfortable was actually in the US with a guy called Rob Mack, and they sat me with a fake cup of tea.
Yeah.
This has actually got tea in, by the way. And I watched them, and they were so good. They was
nice.
I was like, you haven't got bloody tea in there. You haven't got nothing. So
why would they do that? Just get tea.
I know. So I actually got one, but there was a smart ass on there that we became friends called Zach. And he was like, if anyone notices on camera. So he held his cup upside down. Just
I know. That's hilarious.
Noticed,
but,
all right. What's your career highlight?
Ooh, my career highlight?
So far. It's going to continue.
So far. I mean, I love my show, everything about it. I do. I love the people that I work with, all of that. And they inspire me to no end. But I think, and I would say at this point in my career, in terms of visibility, it's the biggest thing I've done. But I would say one of my highlights was doing Condor, being able to work with opposite William Hurt and Mira Sorvino, because they're just incredible actors, and they were very generous. And also Andrew McCarthy, he was our director, and I had such a crush on him as a kid. He was like in all of the John Hughes movies, and so he turns out to be our director. Like, like all those great movies, but like 16 Candles and do you know those?
That goes straight into my next question, because I know you've probably got a lot across different genres and everything like that.
Movie?
Who's your inspiration?
God, yes, I do have a million bajillion. Well, let's see. And when I was a kid, Meryl Streep. I think one of the first films I saw was Cry in the Dark. I was like 6 or 7 years old, and it just like destroyed me. And I just loved her, and I wanted to be like her. So I saw pretty much everything she's ever been in. And I was obsessed with classics as a kid. So I would watch, like, one of my favorite actresses is Susan Hayward, and Claudette Colbert, and Robert Taylor, and Clark Gable, like all these. I don't know. I loved that old romanticism. And then today, I think, still Meryl Streep, but I love, oh my gosh, Ben Foster. Cillian Murphy is one of my absolute favorites. Do you know Cillian Murphy?
No.
Do you watch Peaky Blinders?
I started watching it, and then why did we
get back?
He's very cockney. He's very, it's really, really.
He's so amazing. If you just stick with the show, it is so good. But his stillness as an actor, his full, like, I want to be like him when I grow up. And I've watched a lot of his other. He's incredible.
It's funny because we sit down, me and my wife. That's like our time when the kids are asleep, and we pick a new series, and we did that with the obsession what everyone had of Games of Thrones. And we watched the first episode 3 times because it was like, medieval, I don't know.
Yeah.
You watch a couple, you get hooked.
Yeah.
And then it goes to Kings, and so that will be our next one, actually, because
it's so good. So good.
And lastly then, out of everything that you've done, you're going to continue to do obviously more things, but what would you like to be remembered for, your legacy?
After probably this. I would say this, doing a million little things, because the content, the nature of the stories that we're telling, and how it's touched so many people, and how, and I think the outreach work that I've done when I was younger, and then also because of a million little things, all of the like being able to speak with you and to help promote what you're doing, as well as give an hour. I just did a panel, us girls from the show, us women on the show, we did a panel for the Wing, and we were able to have these really incredible conversations about women in film and women of color, and also being biracial in Hollywood. And we also went to a high school, and I got to speak to the kids, and it was an inner city arts high school in Boston. So being able to do that kind of work. So if my acting opens up avenues to have conversations with people where it helps them understand who they are more in some way, or if it inspires them to go after what's most important to them, to build confidence, and to just have no shame around just what it means to be human. And right now that's the topic is mental illness, because it is so just normal and everywhere, and we just need to like destigmatize that. So
couldn't agree more. And I will just have to end with another one, just because this is on video, and anyone seeing this will be like, what is with a hand?
Right. They're like, why is she holding that metal thing? My dog got in a fight with another dog yesterday, and I got in between, and she's a 55-pound dog, and the other was also a big dog. And so somehow, in all the adrenaline and trying to get my dog to get off of this dog, something happened, and it was so crazy. Like, I held her, and the next thing I knew, my finger was bent like this and crooked and just like stuck there and swollen. I'm like, well, that looks not normal. So yeah.
At least you've got to look at the grateful side of things. You're not filming at the moment, so
I know, dude. That would suck. You can't do anything.
You've got to hide that, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we will finish it there, but I do want to say a huge thank you on behalf of the campaign for everything that you've done, like being an advocate and pushing it. Can't thank you enough. And on behalf of myself, for you being so open and speaking to me. I mean, what you do through the show and what you do as yourself as a huge advocate in itself is amazing. So, yeah, appreciate you and appreciate your work and what you do and what you stand for.
Thank you. I appreciate you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And guys, this episode will be out in another week now. So for anybody who wants to catch up on all the latest episodes of the Imperfectly Perfect podcast, simply head to Spotify, iTunes, or iHeartRadio. Until next time, guys, stay safe and we will meet again.